Ke nna Mothabeng moradi wa Albertina, Mama Chola le Joseph Mbutana Moloi. Ke le lekgolokwe le hlaba ho tswana, le hlaba kgoka le mao ka sebonong, le hlaba le sa kgorong ha makwakwane. Makwakwane a eja a e halala, a re kgutla hape o e eketsa, motho wa o etse.
Welcome to the Journey with Mpho podcast, a sacred space for healing, love, and rediscovering your life purpose. Introducing your host, Mpho.
Welcome to Phoenix Rising, Finding Your Life Calling with me, Thola Bennie. And I am co-hosting today with
Journey with Mpho. This is Mpho. Good morning, South Africa. Hello, international world, depending on what your time zone is.
Yay! It is morning time. No, it is nighttime for Mpho. Oh my goodness. Yes. Working with the timelines is crazy. It is nighttime for Mpho. It is morning in Cape Town. So Mpho, I'm going to start by introducing her again. But actually, about a year ago, Mpho and I did a podcast episode together. So she is not new on Phoenix Rising, and I'm not new on her side as well. But anyway, just for intro and for those who haven't met her yet, Mpho is a South African podcaster who is currently based in Hawaii in the USA. She is a certified white light and Karuna Reiki practitioner and utilizes the certification to embody spiritual alchemy in her work as a conscious content creator and carrier of ancestral wisdom. I love it. Love. She considers herself a passionate mental health advocate. Hence, her podcast show, Journey with Mpho, is dedicated to inspiring people to embrace their authentic selves. And Mpho, you are such, I must commend you, you are such an advocate for mental health, and you really do carry the flag for it, which I believe I am too. But I mean, I've seen, girl, you've dedicated a chunk of your podcast to just mental health issues. Anyway.
Thank you so much for the intro. I feel like I should pay you to read my intros all the time, like my bio. I'm like,
yeah,
professional. Thank you. For the Journey with Mpho family, you should probably remember Thola Bennie from season 2, episode 5. We are still in season 2. Thola Bennie is a South African founder and host of the podcast show Phoenix Rising, Finding Your Life Calling with Thola Bennie. This superwoman is also a life coach, motivational speaker, author, freelance blogger, and social media content creator. Yes. So excited to have you back. So excited to be having this conversation. And again, focusing on mental health.
Yes. I mean, like I'm saying, it's two minds coming together, both of us, like such advocates for mental health. And I just feel that this is a conversation we should be having more often than what we are doing right now, because people are not talking about this. And I'm like, what's going on? Because we are all affected in one way or another. Anyway, yeah. Your thoughts.
So we are at the 2-year mark with the pandemic, and most of us didn't imagine that this insanity would last this long nor affect our mental health in such devastating ways. In the past 2 years, what has your mental health journey been like?
You want me to start by crying?
It's appropriate. It's so appropriate. I wouldn't judge you. I would cry too.
I didn't even bring a box of tissues, and this is such a heavy topic. So, I mean, honestly, it's been hectic. Hey, I mean, really, in all honesty, it has been hectic. The last 2 years have been wow. And for me, it's not. And I know most people are affected because of the pandemic, right? For me, it's not even like it's just the pandemic. I lost my job just before the pandemic, my regular job. And and then as I was trying to build myself and saying, okay, where do I go from here? Like, let's build a business. I did my life coaching training. I got certified at the beginning of 2020. And I was like, yes, I was ready to go and launch my business. And then the pandemic happened. And when the pandemic happened, now I've told the story in other platforms as well, then nobody had money, or even if people did have money, everyone was holding on to their resources, right? But people didn't just have money to be spending on things like life coaching. In many societies, life coaching is still seen as a luxury, something you do when you have extra money. Oh, let's get a life coach, because they have extra money to spend. But if you have to choose between buying groceries and making sure your kids go to school and all of those things, you don't really have money to be spending on life coaching. So then that's when I took another hit in terms of now being unable to launch my business, being, struggling to get clients. But so, dealing with that and then having to deal with the effects of the pandemic. And now the whole world is thrown into this chaos of, what is going on, and lockdowns. And for the first time in our lives, I mean, all of us who are alive right now have never really experienced lockdowns and having to stay at home for considerable amount of time. And, now a new reality of some people live by themselves. So it's really being isolated from the world. And those who do live with someone, maybe it also got too much to be locked down with someone for an extended period of time. And that's when we started hearing about domestic violence rates going up as well, because people are locked down together. It's not fun anymore, So it brought up all of these things that we had never, ever thought of or anticipated. And so what I'm trying to say is, like everybody else, I was also suffering like everybody else, because I was at home for extended periods of time by myself. Sometimes I share custody of my girls with my ex. And so sometimes I have them and other times I don't have them. And having to learn to be on my own for extended periods of time and literally nobody to speak to. But the good thing about that is that then I started blogging. And then when blogging wasn't enough for me anymore, then I started a podcast. So, I'm Miss Positive. Put positive and then put my face next to it in the dictionary, because that's me. So I will always find a silver lining. And for me, finding blogging and finding a podcast was the silver lining that I always go back to and say, yes, we were devastated by the pandemic and we are still feeling the effects of it. But look at what I was able to create with God, obviously. I didn't just create all these things by myself. So yes, in a long form, I know I've taken very long to answer your question, Mpho, but what I was trying to say is I was affected just as much, if not more, by the events of the last 2 years. And so periods of really feeling down in the dumps and like struggling to get out of my pajamas. And I always say, when you can't get out of your pajamas and you live in pajamas for 2 days straight, that something is wrong. For me, that's always the indication that, okay, Gary, this is we've hit the bottomest. And so I laugh, but I don't laugh because these things are funny. But I try to find humor in everything. And maybe people will say it's a defense mechanism, but I find humor in most situations. And did that answer your question?
Oh, no, that definitely more than answered my question. You touched on both personal aspects as well as the community impacts of the pandemic. Um, it's
Yeah.
funny that you experienced this loss of your job and you were able to have relentless positivity and say, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start a business. I know how to life coach. And then the pandemic happened. And in our country, South Africa, not everyone can afford a luxury such as life coaching when they need groceries and they need basics.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, what you were assuming to be positive, or this is the direction that I'm going to invest my energy in, was something that you could not do. So I can
Yeah.
imagine staying in pajamas for 2 days and feeling very isolated, not being able to have your kids as often as you wanted to. And then for other people, you realize that this person that you said I would be with forever, and now you're locked up with them every single day. And then are they your forever person?
Can I just tell a very quick story? When I got married, the priest who married me was such a funny man. I'm sure in his other life, he was a comedian. But, maybe people won't get this if I tell it in English. I'm going to try. It's funnier in Zulu. But he was saying, oh, so, when you can't wait to get married and you like to love beds and you just cannot wait to get married and live together. So he said to us, so now here he is. Here he is. Nangu.
Here's your person. You're forever person.
You're gonna wake up every morning and here he is. And the next day, here he is. So you can imagine it was fun and games when you were dating and you were visiting and all of that. And now you stuck together, you literally you turn around and here he is. You turn this way and here he is. So thank God for work, right? Because people, most households, someone works outside the home and they go, to the office and come. So that gives you a bit of a break, right? As a married couple. But now here comes the pandemic and it throws you both together for extended periods of time. And you turn this way, here he is. You turn this way, here he is.
Totally can subscribe to that idea because though I love my husband, I think everybody knows this by now. I love him very much. By day 20 of the pandemic, I was like, okay, if here he is one more time, I think I'm going to be responsible for unsaid things. Like, I don't know if this is like my forever person, because I'm someone who enjoys my own personal time. I enjoy having hobbies outside of a romantic relationship that I'm in. And so not being able, due to the restrictions, to go out in Hawaii, they were like, the parks are closed. And we were like, well, is COVID outside, like at the parks? I can't go to the park and just take a walk. You can't go to the mall. And so you are literally fortunately, those who have very big homes, they locked in very quickly. So you could sit in bedroom number 6 and the other person could be in bedroom number 1 and you don't hear each other.
Or in another wing. If you are blessed to have a house with wings.
But to be so intimately close by like day 20 was very frustrating, and it works on your mental health. It works on your overall being. And sometimes we listen to our favorite podcasts on the drive home, or we listen to the radio, or we listen to a song that we like. But now the commute to work and back is not there. So you're working in your home, you're living with them, and it feels claustrophobic. Like that in itself has so much potential to break your mental health. Like if you're not a person who's built to stay in the house, that's it. It's game over.
Absolutely. It's got nothing to do with you not loving your partner. It doesn't mean you love them less. And I love my space as well. I mean, I'm glad you're saying that about yourself, that you also enjoy your own space outside of your husband. And I'm like that as well. I love my space. See, this thing really did a number on us both ways. Because even if you are the person who loves your space and now you're thrown into this with someone and you're stuck with them, it's like being stuck in a lift with someone, which is my worst nightmare. Or even if you didn't and you were a homebody, still being forced to stay home, there's something about being forced to do something and it's no longer choice.
It's having your choices taken away that starts to make you feel like you're losing control over your life. It's the loss of control.
Exactly.
Especially in the way people travel, in the way people express their freedoms. A lot of it has to do with the ability to go where you want to go, whenever you want to go, at whatever time. I remember speaking to my grandmother, and she has early onset dementia. And they were saying one of the things that's triggering is that they have curfews and they have patrols, police officers and things patrolling at curfew. And to her, it felt like apartheid times. It was just like there's no difference between what she was experiencing and apartheid. And it was triggering so many negative memories for her that she was getting worse. Her condition was getting worse.
Oh my gosh. Like everybody was affected in some way or another. And I used to love jogging at the beach. I mean, I still do. But to be told, again, the beach was closed. I mean, really, the beach is closed.
Yeah.
I saw a funny meme where someone said, you know, when you were young and you wanted to go and play outside and your parents said, the outside is not going away.
The outside did go away.
And then the outside went away. Look, the outside is gone.
Okay, we're having too much fun.
No, we're supposed to be discussing like serious topic, but we're having way too much fun. But this is us showing that mental health is a choice, which is what I love. We are literally demonstrating that mental health is really in your control, and it's a choice. It's how you choose to view the situation, really. Anyways,
and I think as South Africans, we find the humor in everything.
Yes, we have a song for everything. So
you spoke about jogging on the beach and that being like your way to balance your mindset and bring in some wellness into your life. What are some of the things that you think you've cultivated as habits that have helped you with your mental health? I know you do wonderful gym videos. I saw your TikToks and I was like, I need to go to the gym. I'm inspired by the work you're doing.
And lately I've been eating like crazy, but anyway, we're not talking about that. Yeah, so for me, I mean, exercise has always been a thing for me, even like way before both my girls were born. I've always been, I exercise. And there have been times, obviously, where I have fallen off the bandwagon, gain weight, and then it brings you right back to, what works, which is exercise. Yeah. But I found that holding on to those habits really kept me going. So I never missed a beat when it came to exercise. I was exercising in my garage. I was exercising in my bedroom. So that's one thing that I decided from the get-go, that I wasn't going to miss a bit. And also, I suppose because I had already started on quite a strict routine and I didn't want to fall off. And I realized that if I did, being stuck at home, I was going to start eating and then gain weight. And many people gained weight during the pandemic. People call it the pandemic weight, whatever. But I was just trying to make sure that I don't fall into that trap. And so what I have found works for me, even up until today, is to stick to a routine. So of the, healthy habits that I have cultivated over the years. So one of those is exercise, right? To make sure that I don't exercise every day. I'm not going to lie and say exercise every day. And also I'm always preaching being kind to yourself. So I'm not talking about like working yourself into a standstill. I'm talking about maintaining a healthy exercise routine. So for me, it's every other day. Right. And then I also, started meditation as well. And I didn't even know how to meditate, And the good thing about the internet, the World Wide Web, is that you can find anything these days on the internet. So, and also I have said to people, I'm the app queen. If there's an app, I've got it. If there's an app for it, Thola has it. So I started meditation. And because I didn't know how to meditate, I then got an app for it, right? Which is the Insight Timer. They don't pay me, but it's an amazing app. So I'm not like trying to promote it. I'm just saying this is what I use. And it will take you from like a beginner who has never sat down and be quiet for 2 minutes to, the best that you can do. And then what else? Oh, and also I have found, when you're talking to yourself and you're going crazy and then you start talking to God. And so that has been one of the most amazing things that I have discovered during the last. I always knew God existed, but I can't remember who I was telling. I said, I was always happy to know that God is there. Like, it's nice to know you're there, but just keep an eye on me. That's all I'm asking for. I wasn't really very intimate with God. But now being stuck at home alone and going through stuff and all of that, I started being more intimate conversations every day, and reading my Bible. I've got, again, the Bible app. So making sure that every day I spend intimate time with God. So those are the habits that I cultivated that have really kept me grounded and kept me healthy and kept me going and helped me to build the resilience. I don't know, what are some of the things that you've used, Mpho, or are still using? Keep yourself sane.
Like your exercise, I feel mental health is a continuous commitment to the journey. You can't do one little meditation or one little breathing here and then think, no, I'm set for the next month. It's something that you have to work for minute by minute, day by day. And some days I'm really, really good at it. And some days I'm struggling to get out of bed. I always had mental health challenges on and off, but I think the pandemic made them just a little bit worse. And then having a baby and learning about postpartum depression turned it even upside down.
And your mother being like thousands, millions of kilometers away, because you need your mom. I can tell you now, when you have a baby, you need your mom.
Yes. I have come to fully recognize that, not only just being 1,000 miles away, but the US restricting South Africans from traveling into the US. I had to give birth without my mother, and I'm still kind of in the process of mothering without my mother. I have a FaceTime mom. Every question that you have, you need to FaceTime. And so, to be honest, I wish I could offer something that I say, this is what I've done consistently. I've tried a variety of things. I've tried exercise. I've tried diet. I've tried sleeping on time, getting that 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I've tried slowing all the way down, as in not putting too many things on my to-do list, because pre-baby Mpho was a personality type A. I had this and this and this and this and this and this and this that I have to do today. And now I'm like, if it doesn't get done, it wasn't as important. It's not necessary. I can slow down and I can hope that I'll have the time to do it in the future. But even if I don't have the time to do it in the future, to your point, you said, I am kind to myself. I'm learning to offer myself that kindness and say, it's okay. It's not done. It's probably never going to get done. And I'm not going to have a panic attack about it. I'm just going to relax. Yes, no one's going to die. But did you die aspect of my...
I love it. Mpho, I'm so sorry you had to have a baby without your mom, because I know I needed my mom when I had one delay. At least for your first child, maybe second child, it's like better. You've learned some things. I mean, anyway, that's a topic for another day. But, child.
It's hard. I've been thinking more deeply about culture during this time. From a traditional perspective, there's so much that we do as Batho ba Basotho for our children, and not having the elders to show me the way, like, okay, this is what you do to the child's umbilical cord. This is what happens when the child is healing through this process. I'm having to not only say my family's not here, but also attempt to replicate some of those traditional practices abroad, like Mpho, for instance.
But yes, how do you get hold of Mpho?
So there's something in the US called sage. It's, I
Oh,
believe,
yes.
dried leaves. And so I use sage instead. And when my mom came in 2020, she left a bag of Mpho. So I had a lot of it to begin with. So I've been using like cute incense sticks and like, trying to, as much as I can, bring a little bit of that culture with what I have here, because I realize that I'm not going to be able to do things exact for exact, but I can try and see what part of this is important. What do I want to teach my daughter that I think is really the essence of who I am and the practices of my people and where I come from. And so that has been challenging, and you throw in work and you throw in a pandemic, and then we had COVID in December. The Healer family had COVID, and I was like, okay.
Oh my. Well, that is why I never say, can it get any worse? Because I do not tempt the universe. I never ask the universe, can it get any worse? Because then it gets worse.
Yes.
And all the stuff that you're talking about, this is indigenous knowledge that you're not even going to find on the internet, right? Like, yeah, you need to be amongst your people. You need someone to hold your hand and say, this is how we talk to the ancestors. This is why we've been this, and this is why. I mean, I feel even for my daughters now, because obviously knowledge gets passed from generation to generation. I was lucky that I was raised by my grandma, but then she passed when I just finished varsity. But the relationship with my mom is not the same. And, I'm not learning as much from her as I learned from my grandma. So I've lost some of the knowledge. And what do I have to share with my daughters? Almost nothing. We go back to KZN when there's something happening and they see Gogo burning something and they're like, why is she doing that?
Yes, this is so weird. What's going on? I don't...
But why is she slaughtering the chicken like this? This is, and my daughter Ululu is vegetarian. But why must this be done?
Is it necessary? Could we get fake blood and use fake blood? Do the ancestors accept fake blood?
They don't even call them the ancestors anymore. They call them the underground gang. I'm like, guys, come on now. Come on.
I think that was the saddest part for me with COVID. When they said the target group for COVID are elders, people, I think it was 65 and above. And I was like, no, not only is this thing isolating us and closing us off from the world, it's taking away that line of information. Because from our cultural perspective, we don't write those things down. You can't go on YouTube. That information is sacred information that's not online. And those who have been lucky enough to have their grandparents teach them and then have the technology to put it online, there's very limited information online that is specific to your culture. I'm having to rely on my aunts and uncles to see, what do you guys know that I can put in digital form or in a format that my daughter can understand and I can teach her, even if she's vegan. She can pick and choose, but she knows at least this is what my people do and this is where I come from. It was so frustrating, and it still is. It's still so frustrating for me.
The amount of knowledge that is lost. I mean, you're talking about that now. I was commissioned to write an article about, I'm not going to say what it's the topic, but it's about a certain aspect of African culture. And I was struggling to find stuff on the internet as well. But fortunately, my landlady, she's amazing. When I told her, she said to me, look what I have.
Abantu, the introduction to Black people of South Africa.
It covers all the different cultures. But I mean, the book was written in 1970 something, so a bit outdated. But it's information that I could not find online. I was so excited. I almost kissed her. I was like, she's got a book.
Now I'm interested. I'm like, I want one too.
I know. I don't even know where you find them, but she had it in her archive. So that's amazing. But we're talking about how information is lost from one generation to the next. And even with the article I was writing, I was phoning people and saying, can you tell me what you know? And people were like, I don't know. Maybe let me ask mom. Oh, mom says sometimes we do this, sometimes we don't. Anyway.
our parents, same thing goes for my mom, she's like, yeah, well, those are old things. Like, I don't know if they still hold the same value and importance. And I'm like, my grandmother, when she explained this, said, this is what we do. This is what must be done. She relayed that information in the sense of essence and importance. So when you say, I don't know if it matters, do it or don't do it, I'm confused. Do I do it? Do I not do it? Do you not know? So, Sis Thola, you and I speak so freely about our mental health, and we can have an honest back and forth. Even with our podcasting journey, we've been so honest. But when we were preparing for this episode, we spoke about how our Black African brothers, specifically South African brothers, seem to struggle. It's not as easy to have these mental health challenge conversations with them to say, what's going on? How can we help? How can we hold space for you here? What has your experience been in that aspect of mental health for Black South African brothers?
Oh my goodness. Again, this is a topic that needs so much attention. We, without quoting specific examples, we see what's going on around us, right? The number of suicides is going up. Depression is huge. But this is the thing, though, and I haven't conducted research in this area, so I'm talking just as an individual. There is so much that is unspoken about, and for me, the way I look at it is because Black men, especially African, what's the label? South African men, there's that whole stigma around mental health. First of all, coming from the fact that men are taught from an early age that boys don't cry. That's the thing. They're not allowed to. And then I was reading another article, and it was also touching on depression in men and all of that. And they were talking about the fact that something that I never even thought about, that even the word depression does not exist in the Zulu language. Or I don't know about your language. I mean, I don't know other African languages, but how do you even begin to say what's troubling you, or to realize when it's depression, when we don't even have words for it? So then, people don't talk about it. Men suffer in silence in their own corners. When I used to work in HIV prevention, we know for a fact that men never came forward, not never, but hardly came forward to seek help. And if it's such a struggle for men to seek help for things that are now as common as HIV and other STIs, how much more for something that is still so stigmatized, like depression? How do you even, what do you say? What am I suffering from? Without looking like a weakling, a man who's not a man.
Yes.
So for me, that's been my observation, is that there's a whole bunch of men out there who are suffering in silence, and they don't have the safe space to talk about these things and say, yeah, I'm also suffering. Are you? And then add the pressure that men have to perform. They have to look like they are on top of things. Most of them have to be breadwinners. So they still have to bring in the bread and the bacon. But no one is checking. Are you okay though? And some of this is stuff that I get from just casual conversations. When I have nephews and I have friends who have, men in that age group, 16 to 13, whatever. And so you get, just anecdotal stuff from different people. It's not really stuff that has been researched, and these are the statistics. But we know for a fact that depression has shot up since the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah, sure. I feel so saddened in the sense that, you and I can only speak about this from the perspective of an observer. We see the men in our lives or in the communities struggling, and we speak on it. But can you imagine feeling like nobody's going to listen? And if somebody does listen, they're going to question your manhood and target it like, yeah, but why can't you provide? Why don't you have a job? Yeah, a
If
man's
they don't
supposed to do
laugh at
this
you.
and this. Yes. So there's, even when you've developed the courage, I think, to speak up, the people receiving your, it must have taken months, it must have taken years for you to finally get to this point to say, yeah, I'm struggling and I'm going to tell people that I'm struggling. And then you meet people who are just not open or just not ready.
Yeah. Or are going to ridicule you. I mean, Mpho, let's use an example that we know about. When a man is raped and they go to the police station to report, they are laughed at. Like, how do you rape a man? Kiki. So it's not giving them space, a safe space to say, this is what I'm suffering. Or if a man is a victim of domestic violence, they get beat up by their partner all the time. They can't step forward and come to the police station and say, my partner is abusing me physically. You know, and this is something that they might even have physical evidence of. So can you imagine if they're struggling in that regard to be taken seriously? How much more when they need to say, hey, I'm not coping. I'm really, really not coping. And so what do people do? They take their own lives, or they lash out at those who are closest to them. You know, they become violent and do all sorts of crazy things because that's the only outlet that they have. Yeah. I feel for men. I really, God, I just want to go around and hug every man out there because honestly, they need it.
Yes. And I think, you know, that's the mothering, nurturing woman side of us that wants to go in and say, I don't want you to experience that much pain. There is love here. You are welcome to be whoever and to express the hurt that you've been through. And I will not ridicule you if you do that. And so here we are trying to navigate this very fine line of creating safe spaces for our Black brothers to, and we say Black not to exclude any other race, but this is, it's home for us. It's conversation from where we come from and what we've seen firsthand, and South Africa having majority of a Black population. So don't take this as an exclusion, but how do we
Mpho, can I also just butt in on that particular point?
Yes.
Statistics also show that Black men are more affected than white men. Again, we are not saying that it's not important. We are just saying this is really, really something that needs focus and attention. Statistics show that Black men are more affected. In the US, I saw.
Yes. So how do we bring them in without feeling like we have to mother them? Because I don't know about you, Thola, but with every relationship that I've been in and I'd seen a man struggling, I ended up playing the mother role, even when there were issues that were romantic based issues. I would say, well, I know he's struggling with this. Well, I know he has depression. I know he is feeling like his family isn't taking his mental health seriously. I'm the one who sees him for who he is. And so you make up these, and that's why I feel like in order to deal with gender-based violence in South Africa, you have to tackle this aspect of mental health in men, because those two are very much so correlated. We think we are their healers, or we've convinced ourselves, or they've let us believe, or they've said, there's no one else who understands me the way you do. There's no one else who listens to me the way you do. One of my exes, it was so bad. And now this is after I've journeyed through my own mental health and spoken to a number of people on my podcast with it. But one of my former exes, his mom would call me and say, he's not doing well. Today, he like smashed all the windows in my car, or today he tried to jump off the balcony and we had to call the police. And so at that time, I didn't recognize that, whoa, this is something that I could probably encourage him to go to therapy for, or work just on not being the main source of his shelter in his corner, because that can weigh on you. We stay in those relationships for so long that when you try and leave,
codependent relationship.
Yes. And when you try and leave, Lomuntlo is like, no, you have to die, because I physically cannot. You've taught me that you would be a safe space for me, and I don't know anything else outside of you.
Yeah. And how do you then untangle yourself from that? It is very hard. I mean, you're so right, because we are nurturing by nature. So that's our first instinct, is to, let me mother you, let me, but I suppose we also have to learn to not be so mothering, but maybe be more factual. These are the facts, I'm going to give them to you, whether you accept them or not. If you need help, you have to get professional help. You can talk to me and I will not judge you, but I will not do stuff for you. So I'm not going to be an enabler, right? Because I think that's the trap we may fall into, is that we then become the enabler. And so then, they get the energy from us. So they need us for the energy. And like you said, so then it's an ongoing cycle, which you also now can't get yourself out of. You're married to someone else now, but you're still helping that person because you're the only safe space they recognize. Thola understands me, but now Thola is married to somebody else, and now you don't want that chipping into that relationship. So I think for us women too, we need to realize that I don't always have to be mothering. I should just be able to give. I think for me, it has helped that I have a psychology training, and that I, am into life coaching, because it's come with years, obviously. I wasn't always like that. But now I'm able to sit with someone and just listen. And I used to be the kind of person who, I was telling a friend, I didn't go into counseling psychology because I was worried that when people tell me their problems, I automatically own them. It becomes my problem. Mpho's child is not sleeping, so now I'm not sleeping because Mpho's daughter is not sleeping. Now it's my problem. Or Mpho's daughter is not, drinking her milk or whatever. Then I own it. So anybody who comes to me with a problem, it becomes mine. It keeps me awake at night. And so I saw that in myself many years ago, when I reached a point where now I can listen with a straight face and give it to you, whatever I think, and use it, don't use it. But I'm going to sleep at night and I'm not going to own it. So, again, I'm saying it's not something that you just become. It's something you acquire over the years, especially once you've heard too many of those stories. But also there's another thing that maybe we are not talking about, is the absence of fathers in the African family I also, think has also played a huge role, which we are not even tapping into, because these boys and these men are being raised by their mothers. And so what do mothers do? They nurture them. Please let him sleep. He's tired. I'm not saying that in a mean way, but I'm saying then they become spoiled because everyone is catering to their needs. And then one day, I always say to my kids, sometimes I have to say no, not because I cannot, but because I'm teaching you that the world is going to say no at some point. Build that muscle. So when you are raised where everything is, let him have it. Oh no, he's a boy. Let him go out and come back as late as he likes. But you can't because you're a girl. Because this is mothers overcompensating for the fact that there are no fathers in these families. And so then there's something there that's not working, which if these men were raised by men, maybe we'll be seeing a different breed of men. I hope it sounds the way it sounds in my head. I don't know now.
Yes, it's so hard. Some things need to be said. And in today's society, we're looking at being appropriate. Like, are we including everyone? Are we not offending everyone? And it can be stressful to think in those terms, but it is the reality. I was thinking about it just before we started recording, and I was preparing for our session, and I thought, we always talk about girls with daddy issues, but what about the boys who were raised just by mothers? Are we considering that they could be potentially a great mental health impact on those boys? Do we know it? And now just listening to you talk and say, let him sleep, or no, he's a boy, he can go out until late. I now recognize not only is it the fathers who are not physically in the house, but the father can physically be in the house. But if he's mentally checked out. Maybe there's issues of infidelity, and he's not a present father, which was the case in my ex. Like, as you were talking, I'm like, oh wow, my ex's mom was like, no, he's like this, no, this is what, and so almost like babied and mothered him and wanted to train me to do the same thing. And he had a very bad relationship with his father. A lot of our discussions based on around his mental health was, when I was a child, my father did this or wouldn't let me do this, or my father loves my sister more. And so I'm like trying to help him heal and reflect on those issues as an adult male child now, and saying, you're no longer that 5-year-old or that 14-year-old who wanted to pursue a career in soccer, and your father said, no, that's not good enough, you have to go be a lawyer, or you have to go be a banker or something. You are now an adult that is living your life, and you can forgive your father because at the time he only saw what he saw and made what he thought were the best decisions for you.
I mean, this is a topic on itself, right? Like boys with daddy issues. I mean, like no one is talking about that.
No, everybody wants to talk about women who are dating older men or have issues or relationship issues with the men that they're dating because maybe the father wasn't present. But what about
abandonment issues?
Sure.
But what about boys who have abandonment issues? How is it affecting them mentally? What is it doing to them?
I'm so interested in the data. I'm so interested in seeing the data for single mothers who've raised age groups at 16 to 30, seeing this depression, suicide, mental health rate challenges within that space. Maybe there's something to be found, and who knows, maybe someone might be doing the research. It wouldn't hurt for us to go into Google and say, okay, what has been found? What has been found within this realm of discussion?
Yeah. And I did raise this when we were having a talk about gender-based violence, because I was saying, but no, we're not talking about how these men are raised, by their mothers who are babying them and saying, oh, you can have that, you can have that. They learn that no is not a word. No. Nobody says no to you because you are a boy. And so then one time they meet a girl who doesn't want to sleep with them, and they lose it because they've never heard the word no. They've been told they can have everything they want. So I don't know.
We should call South African men with whatever age group they're into a podcast conversation. We should host a panel and say, and raise some of these things. Yes, raise some of these things and learn. I'm very interested in learning, because now as a mother to a daughter, trying to put in efficient work to make sure that she is a solid member of society, I want to know what my fellow friends who are raising sons are doing. What's different here? How do we do this differently?
I love that, because just in relation to that, I said to a friend of mine not so long ago, she was talking about the fact that her son, I hope she's not going to kill me, I'm not saying what her name is anyway. Her son cannot fry an egg, her son cannot do this, her son cannot do this, and her son is 21. And I said, what's going to happen when he leaves home? Like when he needs to be on his own? Oh, he's not going to be on his own. He's got a plan. He's going to get married. And then I said,
whom's daughter?
This was like,
whom's daughter?
I'm not raising mine for that situation. I can tell you that.
Exactly. It's the blatant truth. We're not doing the work so that our daughters can get into the mothering, nurturing situation
and be a maid. No, yes. I'm not raising my daughters to be anybody's maid. I'm sorry, but I'm not raising my daughters for that role in life. Whose daughter?
Yes, we're raising our daughters to be, this thing, you find 50% of a person and you add your 50 and you have 100. Yes. We're raising our daughters to be 100% of a person, so that they can meet 100% of a person and they can build something solid and they can change and break generational patterns and traumas and financial situations. We're not stopping.
100%. I'm getting shivers. I mean, you speaking the truth. That's what we're doing.
We're not stopping to mother other people's sons. No, if you're not ready for that, then go back home, let your mother do the work that she was supposed to do. I'm sorry to say, but do the work that she was supposed to do.
That's the thing. Yeah. Apologizing for saying the truth. Yeah. I said the thing that says, we are not rehabilitation centers for badly raised men.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm all for that. Definitely all for that.
Now I'm starting to look like we're bashing men, but we really are not. We're trying to build you guys. We are building. Love men. Men are my favorite.
We did say we want to hug them, so we do love them.
No, we want what's best. We want to see a different caliber of men. We are breaking generational curses here. We're not repeating the same mistakes of the old, we're not. So if it takes some straight talk, if it takes we are going to dish it as we see it, unfortunately. So I guess part of manning up is like learn to take the truth too and not feel attacked.
Yeah. And we're opening up the platform. Like I said, we are willing to have this open discussion panel. Thola has her email address in her episode notes. I have my email address. If you and your guy friends want to reach out to us and talk about this and, open up the discussion even deeper, hey, we are here. We are open to learning. Because we want what's best. We're building generations to come. We are building
a nation. That's what we are doing.
Yes.
I can think of a few men I'd love to invite to this conversation. And honestly, if there are men out there, like you're saying, Mpho, who would love to come and present their side, because maybe, men haven't been given the platform to present their side. That's what we are looking for. This is part of nation building.
Yeah.
We should bring this to a close. This is a never-ending topic, and I think we should keep it going, even if we do it every 6 months. Honestly, I'm happy to have these discussions ongoing.
Yes. I'm feeling inspired to bring men into the conversation. So I think in our next discussion, I will invite a few people who are interested, because again, I don't want people to know, there's the stigmas and the shame and being ridiculed. So I have to find people who agree and commit and are willing to be vulnerable on the mic, because these podcasts, they stay online. Someone can search your name and pop up with the same information. So other people are not comfortable with that, which I'm fully respectful of. I understand that completely, but let's continue the conversation for sure. Let's close with something much lighter, something that we are both very experienced in now, and something that you have been extremely successful in. I'm looking at you right now. You have your lipstick, you have your makeup, you have your name on the top. You've mastered virtual podcasting. You're like, listen, I'm here and I'm going to rock the world and I'm going to be perfect at it. Podcasting, Sis Thola, we don't get paid.
We don't get paid. We don't get this. I do this because I love it. No, seriously, I love doing this. This is my passion. What do they say? When passion meets preparation, I'm in my element. So yes. Podcasting has been a journey, but it's been such a fulfilling, and I'm sure for you too, Mpho. It's been such a fulfilling journey for me. I don't see, now I'm busy with other things. To be honest, I've got other side projects that I'm giving so much of my time. But I still I need to get a podcast in there. I need to get a podcast episode in there, because it doesn't feel like work. This is not work, because we are saying we don't get paid for this. This is something we do because it's passion, because you feel like you're making a difference. Even if only one person learns something from this, it's still a difference, right, that you have made. So I've met so many people and made friends. And I'm talking about friends outside of just the podcast episode, people that I still talk to today, whose phone numbers I have, they have my phone number and we check in on each other. People from like the other side of the world. And so that's why I say for me, it's been such a fulfilling journey. And to be honest, I did get sponsorship at some point, which was really, really nice. That was nice. It came out of doing something that I love, and someone saw it, loved it, decided to give me a bit of money to sponsor it. But so those are all the good things that have come out of my podcasting journey. Challenges are, for me, it's been, I suppose, because podcasting wasn't such a big thing in South Africa. I see now there are podcasts that are popping up, but they're mostly in the entertainment industry. The gossip, who's doing what, who's sleeping with who. That's not the stuff.
I thought you
myself with. So I don't identify, but
yes.
The challenges are to get people to, I suppose, support your dream and buy into it. So I guess it takes a certain type of person to want to listen to a podcast on mental health when they'd rather listen on a podcast about who's sleeping with who. So that's what we are. That's what we are in
competing with. Yeah.
What about you? What on your end, what are some of the highs?
Successes. Oh my goodness. I, like yourself, the opportunity to sit down like this and really listen to people and learn where they come from, share stories and laugh is therapeutic. I think I truly believe my podcasting journey brought me out of postpartum depression, because I had birth and I had a hard time coming up, and I would see your stories on WhatsApp and you're like going and you're talking. I'm like, no, I need to get back to this, because this is what gives me life. This is what makes me happy. And so gradually I started to make steps with coming back into it. And I came back with what I knew best, my mental health. I was like, guys, I'm here, but I'm struggling mentally. Like, I don't know if I can commit to an episode every other Sunday. We're going to try. And if I don't publish anything, don't kill me, because it's been lit in my world. I feel like my world is on fire right now, but I love podcasting. And so
I'm so proud of you. I am so proud. You inspire me. You think I inspire you, but it works both ways, sister. It really does. Like, you inspire me. You are a young mom, raising a baby, your first baby, and you're still getting up and doing this. Again, doing what you love, right? Because then it doesn't feel like work. And it's helping someone out there, someone who's going to listen to this and hear you saying that there are days when you are really struggling, but you still get up and do and put out an episode. That person is going to be like, wow, I'm so proud of you, Mpho. Honestly, you're my little sister. So
you're going to make me cry, because my goodness, I think only other podcasters can truly understand the work that goes into creating, scheduling guests, putting that content out there, advertising it, and trying to get people to listen, and then also like battling a mental health challenge. So I feel really seen by your words of kindness and recognition, and truly inspired by the work that you are doing. Because I promise you, sister, I don't remember who you were interviewing or what was the conversation, but I saw the joy in your face and I loved the conversation. And I was like, hello, yes, you're a mom, but you love podcasting. Remember? Hello, you're a podcaster. Earth calling to Mpho. Are you there? Ding, ding, ding. Are you there? And then finally I was like, okay. And then my voice, because in pregnancy, your voice changes. So I came onto the mic and I'm like, oh, what the
People used to say to me, but why are you out of breath? Especially when I was talking to them on the phone when I was pregnant, and I'd be so offended. I'm not out of breath.
I think, we're almost to the end of our conversation. The challenges they've not been worthy of mentioning. I think there's been so much goodness. The only thing that I could say was a challenge is I'm still trying to figure out how to do this as a full-time thing. I'm still trying to figure out how to have this much joy and get paid for it.
Right. And I guess that comes with building an audience, honestly.
Yes.
And also don't undermine the value of latching onto other podcasters. Again, I always say this about podcasting is that it's what I love most about it is that it is not competitive, it's collaborative. And so many people want to help you out there. Podcasters want other podcasters to win. We all want each other to win. We all want to be on your podcast. We all want you to be on our podcast. So, and you can learn so much. So you will get there. You will get to a point where you get paid for it.
I'm hopeful. I'm excited. I always close up my episodes with final words from the heart, things that you think might inspire anyone who listens to this and gets them going. Like if they are still struggling to recover from the pandemic, if they're still trying to figure out their way, how do we reach those people? How do we inspire them and touch them through our words in this virtual space and in this crazy world?
Yeah, that's never an easy one, but for me it's always about finding something to live for, whatever that is for you. I don't know what it is for you. Maybe it's your daughter. For me, it's my daughter's for sure. But for each and every one of us, there is something. And I find that that's the thing that keeps you going, when times are really, really hard, is to have that one light that keeps you going, something that you want to live for. Maybe it's your small project, your podcast. Maybe it's the book that you are writing. Whatever, maybe it's your mom. Maybe it's I don't know what it is for you, but when you find something to live for, to pour yourself into, I think that really helps. And also remember what I have said 3 times already now, is that when you find something that you love, you never have to work a day in your life because it doesn't feel like work. And I know it doesn't pay the bills, but it keeps you going. You made such a beautiful example of when you were feeling at your lowest. And then you saw my podcast and you were like, I need to get up and go. Because that was the light. I can't remember what Tyler Perry calls it. Tyler Perry has a word for it. That light that keeps you going. So for me, that's what I have to share this morning. What about
I absolutely love it. I love your energy. I love it, Sis Thola. There's something that you said. You just asked, what about me? There's something that you said earlier in the podcast, and I think that we are the hardest on ourselves. You said, I am practicing or always know to practice kindness towards myself. And that's all I would say are like the closing words from my heart. Just be kind. Like, we've been through so much. We are about to, as a global community, go through inflation. Everywhere people are like petrol prices, gas prices, food prices. Just be kind to yourself. Just be so kind. Be so self-aware. Give yourself love. Speak to yourself in the same way that you'd speak to the people that you love, your friends and your family, when they're going through a hard time. Turn that mirror inward and pour into yourself. Just be so insanely kind to yourself is all.
It's not selfish. It's not selfish being, pouring into yourself. And this again gets said many times that you can't, like in the plane when they say put the oxygen mask on yourself before you put it on someone else. That is pouring into yourself. And in fact, I want to end off or to emphasize what you just said by sharing something I said to my landlady the other day. I was feeling so drained that day. I was struggling, Mpho. I was struggling just to get up and sit at my desk and do a bit of work. And I had a huge deadline. But each time I got up to sit at my desk, I will type maybe a paragraph and I'll be like, go and do this. Then I will go back to my bed and lie down for an hour. And then I would get up and write a paragraph and then go back to lie down. So I said to her, I feel like an electronic toothbrush. She says, why? Like as an electronic toothbrush does 5 minutes of solid work and then it stays in the charger the whole day.
That's a good analogy. I like that. That's really good. Yeah.
So yeah, that's being kind to yourself. Yeah.
It looks different for all of us. We know what gives us love. We know how we want to be loved. And let's do that for ourselves. Let's really do that for ourselves. Every single moment, every single day, let's just zone in and say, how can I take care of myself so that there's one less person in the world to worry about? Because if you take care of you and the next person does the same thing, we can start to create a global community of people who are really changing their mental health, their mindset, wellness, and we can increase the vibration of the planet in much faster ways than if I come to Sis Thola's house and I say, let me help you while I'm still struggling and while I'm still empty.
Just to start inside first. The change must happen here before it happens outside in the world.
Thank you so much, Sis Thola. I appreciate you. Thank you for always getting me going and opening up so easily.
Mutual. Thank you. God bless you, Mpho. I love you so much, sis.
Okay. I love you guys. I am going to sign out. Magolokwe, Kiotaba, Ribuile. Aloha.
Well, before you go, I wanted to thank you for taking the first step in supporting my journey by listening to this episode. The second big step would be exploring the various ways you can become an official supporter of my journey by signing up for our Patreon offerings. We offer some great benefits such as one-to-one phone calls and distance Reiki sessions with me. For more information, visit patreon.com/journeywithmpho. The link is in the episode notes. If you loved what you heard, then subscribe to the show and continue to share episodes that resonate with friends and family. If you're listening through Apple Podcasts, please take a few minutes to rate and review us so we can continue to get our content to the people who need it the most. We are serious about getting your feedback, so if you'd like to take the rating and review a step further, check out our feedback survey link in the episode notes. Your feedback will help us to continue offering content that matters to you and is worth your time. Finally, in this day and age, it apparently matters how many followers you have on social media, so go ahead and find us on Instagram at journeywithmpho, and we promise to make it worth your while by sharing heart-centered, conscious content. Thank you for your continued support. I cannot wait to spend time with you again in the next episode.